Hey, it's the preacher and I'm at Kings Mountain National Battlefield Park. And if you're not familiar with the battle that took place here, I would encourage you to get acquainted with it. This was a turning point in the Revolutionary War. It is here that the patriot militia and just backwoods men, these men all rounded up and went after a man that had threatened their livelihood. And they met here at Kings Mountain in South Carolina. And I want to bring you along and show you a little bit of this. Thanks for coming along with me today on the road again. This is a place I've wanted to see for some time, and today we're going to make it happen. This is Kings Mountain. It was called Kings Mountain not because it was named after a king, but because it was a steep ridge that had these ravines. Well, you can see one there. And on the top of that ridge, that's a steep ridge. On the top it's flat and open at the time. There's big fields up there. This timber, these steep ravines, these little creeks made the perfect place for Colonel Ferguson to make his final stand on top of the mountain. And it also made the perfect approach for backwoods men who scaled up the side of this mountain, surrounded those men on the top, and basically wiped them out. And you can tell how steep that is, but that's pretty steep. So let me give you the reason for the Battle of Kings Mountain. In 1780, the British were starting to realize they wasn't making any progress of the Revolutionary War. They decided to turn their attention from the middle colonies to the southern colonies. They thought there was a lot more loyalist support here. So they thought they would come down to the south and they would just find all these loyalists ready to join the militia. And the south was pretty evenly divided, especially some places. It was brother against brother, family against family. And so they got a foothold in Charleston in May of 1780, and Cornwallis landed there, took the city, and then so Gates lost at Camden and fled. And they said his horse ran all the way back to Philadelphia. So after a swift defeat of the Americans in South Carolina, Cornwallis sent out a Colonel William Ferguson, and he was sent out to basically tell everybody join or die. And so he sent word way back in the Appalachian Mountains on the other side of the big mountains and said, if you don't join the loyalist militia, we'll come to your farm and burn it down, and we'll kill you and your family. Well, backwoods folks don't take that kind of talk very well. And these men just decided that after they got their crops put in, they would meet at Sycamore Shoals, which is modern day Tennessee, come over the mountain and just put an end to Ferguson once and for all. So instead of waiting for him to come to them, they took the battle to him. So when Ferguson got word that a group of backwoods militia were coming after him, he packed up his stuff and headed to Charleston. But they sent a group of riflemen ahead, and he held up here on the top of Kings Mountain. The Patriots surrounded him and fought their way up these steep ravines and encircled the men on the top. Ferguson himself was shot multiple times, fell out of his horse, propped up against a tree where he died on the battlefield. The second in command offered surrender But these backwoods men wouldn't have that. They were tired of being threatened. But finally, they did take the surrender. And that's where it ended, right there. This is where the Loyalist militia retreated to. This was their base camp. The Patriots were coming up from all sides of the ridge, and they had them rounded up here, and they were caught in a crossfire. As you can see, once you get to the top, it's kind of a flat. In Arkansas, we'd call it a ridge. I guess if you're from the Carolinas, you call it a mountain. It's a long ridge. It's not extremely tall, but it gives you a good vantage point of everything around you.
All right, my name is Mike Rich from Arkansas. I came over here to pick up this rifle made for me by Don Bruton. It's a 1755, 1760 period rifle. It would have been a pre-Revolutionary War rifle. It's typical of the kind carried by the Over Mountain boys. It's a large bore, 54 caliber. The bore sort of shrunk as the bigger animals disappeared. But anyway, I had relatives, ancestors that came over mountain. The two Finley boys and the two Snodgrass boys, Scotch-Irish, which explains some of my temper tantrums, I guess. But anyway, this is why I came to Kings Mountain. I wanted to display this rifle, brand new, my brand new rifle gun. And I'm not going to name her Sweet Lips, but I love it. I've shot it, and I'm just proud to be here in the place where my ancestors fought and defeated poor General Ferguson. We got him.
Amen. What's the odds I meet a guy from Arkansas in Kings Mountain, South Carolina? Where are you from?
Van Buren, Arkansas, right on the Arkansas-Oklahoma border.
I'm from Van Buren, Arkansas. I pastor Lee Creek Baptist Church.
I know right where you are. I'm up the road from you.
Go. All right, let me say a few things about the park itself. Kings Mountain is a very historic place. It's a turning point in the American Revolution. This is what turned the tides in the Patriot favor. This is what began to sink into the minds of the British Army that they weren't going to be able to win this. This had been a long drawn-out battle, a long drawn-out war, and from here we see just defeat after stalemate, and Cornwallis then begins to start going to Yorktown. The park itself, though, is wonderful. The woods are open. You can see down through them. The place is well kept. I wish the visitor center was open, but you know, federal government and COVID rules pretty much shut everything down. If you get a chance, if you're going down, I think it's I-85, I think if you're in Spartanburg, if you're in Charlotte, you're just a few minutes away from here. Come by, take a look at the park, read about it, learn about your American history. And thanks for coming along with me on the road again. A little pro tip for you. That's a 1.5 mile loop around the visitors, behind the visitor center, around the battlefield. That's not a flat 1.5 miles either. So better bring your walking shoes.